Hey everybody, Papa Wiggs here with Wiggs. Another head-to-head. This one was one that Wiggs wanted to do. James Cook versus Aaron Jones. This is an interesting one for me because you've got one guy on one side of the ball that's really just starting out his career, right, Wiggs, and you
Yep.
got another guy that's getting up there in age, at least for running backs. You know, um, between the two. So this is interesting. Plus, you got Jones switching teams. I mean, Jones is right there at 29. He's getting, he's right getting close to that 30 mark and stuff. So, um, listen, you know what? I think James Cook is going to be a huge part of the Buffalo's offense this year. Not only rushing the ball, but I think in the receiving game, he's going to be a big part. I think he's only going to improve. Uh, the one downside about Cook is he really is more effective getting touchdowns when he catches the ball than when he rushes the ball. And I don't know that that's really a knock against him because you got Josh Allen as your quarterback, right, Wiggs? So I think that's more of the Josh Allen factor, where Allen, when he gets inside the five, he just likes to take the ball in, right, Wiggs? I mean, would you agree with that
Yeah.
assessment? So so uh so that's the only downside I think when it comes to Cook. I really think Cook's going to be. I think this year, you know Cook's going to have. I think he could have over 500 yards receiving, maybe maybe closer to six, just because they've got a rookie wide receiver. Yeah, they've got Kincaid, um, uh, but they got Shakir, but the talent has kind of dropped a little bit there. So I can see Allen having to kind of dump off a little bit more to Cook. So that's why I'm saying I think you have a little bit. I think he's still going to be around that 1,100 yard rushing mark. Uh, you know, I'm not comfortable saying he's going to get any. I think combined he's going to be around that 5 to 7 TD, but I would expect that he's going to have more receiving than rushing
Yeah.
TDs. But I could see him having around between 5 to 7. Now on the flip side, this one's really interesting to me because as you guys know, we're huge Vikings fans, right? We grew up in Minnesota, watching the Vikings. Here we've got Aaron Jones that got let go from the Packers. The Vikings jumped on it right away because they weren't going to re-sign Dalvin Cook. Well, actually,
Madison.
they weren't going to re-sign Madison, so they jumped on it right away. They got Aaron Jones. Jones last year he missed several games. I think it was in the middle of the season, but then he came back and he kind of had a bounce back at the end of the year, where he was really productive at the end of the year. His last three games, he had over 100 yards. Two of them, well, actually, he probably averaged right.
120.
He
Yeah.
averaged right around 120. So he was really productive there. Um, so before that though, he wasn't having that great of a season. It was the end of the season where he kind of popped off. And he was active in the passing game last year for them. I think he had how many receptions did he have last year? He had uh, didn't you can you go back to
They won't show it. I don't think.
yeah. So last year he had 30 receptions, for 233 yards. So um, and he wasn't really productive in the touchdown range. He had two rushing, one receiving. So here's what I think about Jones. Jones' production this year is really going to depend on that interior offensive line of the Vikings, and I can tell you, and Wiggs would probably agree with me, they are not that good. We've got two of the best tackles in the league, but when you get into the interior of our offensive line, they're not that good. Ingram struggled in preseason. His backup that they signed that they were hoping going to compete with them is hurt and is on IR, and he's on the pub. He's not going to be available until after week 4. So I think um, Jones's production depends on how well the interior offensive line does, and how creative our offensive coach and KOC and his offensive coaches get with how they're going to use Jones. Are they going to get him the ball so he can swing outside and maybe take advantage of our tackles? How are they going to use him in the passing game and stuff? Because Jones has proven over the years that he's effective in the passing game. There's several years where there was like 4 years where he averaged almost 70 targets and 50 receptions those years. So he is a running back that can be really active. So here's the plus side of Jones. He's coming in with a brand new quarterback in Sam Darnold. And hopefully Sam Darnold won't revert back to his old ways and take advantage of dumping the ball off to his running backs, as his last resort instead of forcing the ball. If Darnold does that, I can see Jones having a good year receiving. I'm not gonna say he's gonna blow it out of the water. Maybe 350 yards, maybe 4. If they really get creative, he could maybe get over 4. I'm gonna say 350 yards. Rushing, on the other hand, it's hard to judge what he's gonna do because you know what? Last year he was out. Um, the year before that, he played a full season. He's kind of like Mark Andrews before that, though, where, that we talked on our previous video about where, he needs to stay out on the field, right? So, that, and given the fact they got a younger running back in Ty Chandler, who I know that they're really high on, I'm not saying it's going to be a running back by committee, but I do think that it's going to, Jones is getting up there. I do think Chandler's going to be in there 40% of the time, maybe. Jones 60. Um, unless Jones starts running hot, then maybe that impacts Chandler. So I think, you know, 350 yards receiving, maybe 800 yards, 850 rushing. Uh, and I'll be generous on the touchdowns combined. I'll say he'll be maybe around 5. So, um, but I still think out of the two, James Cook is going to have the better year. It's going to be a big part of the offense, just given the circumstances there in Buffalo. I'm not saying Jones isn't going to be a big part, but we've got so much talent. Best receiver in the league, as far as I'm concerned, Justin Jefferson. So we got a lot of other options and stuff. And until KOC proves to me that he can make our running backs effective in his offense, I can't give Jones any higher than I did in rushing.
Yeah, for me, I'll keep it a little more simple. I think James Cook, after evaluating it, I know before I had Jones ranked higher, but I think James Cook, with his pass catching ability, will end up being the better running back this year. Obviously, in PPR, the receptions are always an easy, 1 point, and that's what it's based off of. And he's going to get the ball more than Jones. Now, if Jones is on the field like 70% of the time and Chandler's only out there like 30%, maybe my mind swayed a little bit because he is a receiving back. It's just he's had other running backs in the past like AJ Dillon that kind of chipped away at that over the years. But I could totally see Jones being out there 70% of the time catching the ball. He just needs to stay healthy. That's really all it is. If he stays healthy, he could have a really good year. He's shown that he can run for quite a few touchdowns in seasons. So if our line can figure it out, you never know. He could go for 5 receiving touchdowns as well if Sam Darnold's not going to be a complete idiot like I think he is going to be this year. Um, Time will tell. It's really hard to tell with Jones, in my opinion, but James Cook, I think, is the clear cut better running back. I think the only reason I had Jones ranked a little bit higher towards the start of this year was because JJ McCarthy was not hurt, and I thought he was going to be the starter from day one. So my mind's had to be changed quite a bit here due to the fact that McCarthy got hurt.
Yeah, and I think Cook is definitely a solid, RB1. Um, for sure. I think Jones, and I agree with Wiggs. Right now, I would say Jones is a low end RB1, top end RB2. Now, if what Wiggs said is true, where he's out there 70% of the time, he stays on the field, and he um, shows the Vikings that he's going to be more effective than Chandler. As each week goes by, that may change my opinion, but I'm not willing to say that yet until we see what we got out there.
The one thing I will give Aaron Jones over James Cook is he can actually run in the ball, and he's pretty effective. Like the last 2 years may not have shown that, but the years prior, he definitely has that ability. I think realistically, it doesn't even come down to him in that spectrum. It's what our line does for him this year, and
He had a really good line in Green Bay though too.
yeah, he did.
I'm not taking anything away from Jones, but I think you would agree he had a really good line there, so that made him really effective. And until our line shows us that, that's going to impact Jones. Because Jones can't do anything if the line doesn't stop a big nose tackle from coming in there and grabbing him by the legs and knocking him.
But at any point, if he broke one loose, this is still a running back that could go for a 60-plus yard touchdown. So
I don't disagree with you there. I think time will tell.
Yeah, I think he's unpredictable this year. Like he could have a really good year and shock everyone, or he could just do what we all expect and just be a Viking and have a mediocre year.
Yeah. Well, and I think his health has a lot to do with that too. If he gets hurt, then all bets are off. And trust me, Wiggs and I we talked about this after cutdowns and stuff. We can't afford him to get hurt for the Vikings because if he gets hurt, we're
screwed.
We're really going to be hurting for running backs.
Nothing against Chandler, but he's
because
not the answer.
We only kept 2 running backs on our roster. The third guy that they brought back, Gaskins, is on their practice squad, and he's going to be moved up because they're going to use him as a kick returner, but he's not somebody that's consistent. So we really need Jones to stay healthy this year if we have any chance of having success, wins and losses for the Vikings. So. Yeah. So with that, do you have anything else to add, Wiggs? I think we're good on this one. So again, everybody, check us out, Fantasy Fools PPR on YouTube. We're out on Snapchat, X, TikTok, Instagram. Subscribe, like, share, give us feedback. We just want to be another voice that you guys have that you can go to, and we hope you find benefit out of this. And until next time, we'll see you.